Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to wherever you are in the world. Welcome to RCI TV on both Twitch and YouTube, and we're here for round 5 of Team Jaaag versus Team V12. Nestled in the heart of the Finger Lakes region of New York, Watkins Glen is a venue steeped in history and tradition. Since its first race in 1948, this legendary circuit has played host to some of the most thrilling moments in motorsport. With its combination of high-speed straights, technical corners and elevation changes, the Glen is a true test of skill and bravery for every driver. I'm John Dalton, your lead commentator. Alongside me is Phil Roberts, and bringing you the pictures, Jesse Lee. And of course, a big hello to our live stewards. Welcome, everyone.
Hang on, John. What did you say the region was called again?
Finger Lakes.
The Finger Lakes. Is there a reason for that, or do we have to go and find that out?
I would possibly do some research.
There's like Jesse Lee suggesting the lakes are shaped like fingers.
I mean, it's feasible.
Feasible, yeah. I've heard of a gourd lake before, but we see Les Stevenson just come around the carousel now, or I call it carousel. We're on. I think some of the names of this track are based on parts of the boot, aren't they? Like the toe, the heel, well, I don't know where we are. We're at the bit of the boot section of the track. Jesse Lee talking to my thing, and he's interrupting my flow of thought at the minute. It's not fair. But there's like a short version of this track, and there's like this longer. There's called the boot, isn't it, John? The longer layout of Watkins Glen, and it's all named after different parts of. You can see it there. Like we're coming up the heel now, aren't we?
Yeah, turn 8, of course, being hill. Of course, there are two different layouts, as you mentioned there, Phil. Of course, coming out of turn 5, the NASCAR layout used to kind of straight line itself and bring yourself out where Les Stevenson currently is through turn 9 and makes the kind of back straight, a dead straight run from the turn 5 to essentially turn 10. So skipping out, of course, the boot section, if you like, of course, of shoot, toe, the boot and into hill, and of course the last corner here, turn 11. Got to be very careful to keep it out of the wall. Les Stevenson, first car to lay down a time today, and it will be a 1:47.355, and nobody really within sight of the shot at the back, of course. Just 20 cars here tonight, Phil, so track position should be nice and easy to find, although it does look very congested coming over the start-finish line at the moment.
Yeah, I think some cars haven't really. I think there's a little bit of a skill in that, just finding your own little gap in the traffic. Obviously, we only got 20 cars today, so it should be fairly easy. We've got like if you're quite clever enough, like I've seen the 200 and the Skrillex and Yao Manta, the 200 and the Trouble 2 just coming through the heel now is the Trouble 2. They've got a nice little gap to each other. I think everyone else is just so desperate to go out on track, mainly because probably they had a bit of changeable conditions in the practice session, so I think some drivers are just a bit worried that the weather may turn a bit sour come towards the end of the session. But we've got cloud for the rest of the session, the green track, so we should see a little bit of evolution. It's certainly got the right temperature for it, 23 degrees Celsius on track at the minute, so we should be at least in a fast track by the end of the session, I'd say, John. So maybe some lap times will come falling down, but yeah. One thing to note is obviously we've had a few races now. I think last race was the first at Zolder where the Jaags could have a bit of an advantage. Like certainly the first two tracks we had, the Astons being able to, as Suzuka and Kota were able to stretch the legs a bit. As obviously they had the straight line speed advantage, but it'd be fairly interesting at Watkins. I think it's one of those ones that you can take advantage of. Like, it's a bit surprising when you go through that turn 2, 3, 4 complex where Tim Ireland is at the minute, just coming up to the straight before the bus stop. It's amazing just if you have like a straight line speed advantage, just how much like you can gain on people just in that one small sector alone. Whilst I think the Jaags are going to be a bit stronger across the rest of the lap, I'd say, John.
Yeah, it's going to be a good mixed bag today. I'd say sector 1 probably where we're going to see the Astons kind of stretch their legs, of course, getting a good launch off of turn 1 where Rybecki was just passing through there, and of course all the way up into the bus stop where you essentially do have to make your second set of braking lines, should we say, into there. Of course, the twisty section through the middle should be in the favour of the Jag, and then the last section possibly again in the favour of the Jag. Of course, some very fast corners there as well, not too many straights. But as we look at qualifying, it is an Aston on pole provisionally with Christian Lindgren with a 1:46.420. Raphael Huell, your highest Jaguar at the moment, just dipping down into P3 as Spoda Skrillex sets the provisional pole time of a 1:46.122. We then got Rebecca in P4, Andy Boardman just inside the top 5. Jan Manzo up there as well, and the Jaguar, Richard Withell, Les Stevenson in a nice gaggle of Jaguars. Adam Romagna just inside the top 10, of course, fastest driver from the practice session. Kevin Boss inside the top 10 as well in the Jaguar. And then we have a plethora of Astons, including Foster, Shipston, Pimlott, Byron, Mulder and Redford, all outside the top 10, before we then see Withell, Hauser, Fukusho and Ireland down in towards the bottom end of the field. Tom Shipston, RPMS Motorsport, though, looks like he could be on for an improvement this time by. Delta's looking pretty healthy through the first couple of sectors. Just one more corner to go as he chucks it in low down of the line. Of course, the cambered road sucks the car around and generates a little bit more grip than what you would usually have taking the high line. Shipston to the line. It's an improvement just about, I think, or maybe very minor.
It was like 0.2 hundredths of a second, John.
Say Andy Boardman as well with an improvement, pushing himself towards Rebecca a little bit closer. Richard Withell up inside the top 10 as well, and Kevin Boss to the line now for the Wheelie Slow Racing Team. No improvement for Kevin there. Keith Withell coming in thick and fast. Christian Lindgren using a little bit of the toe off the back of Keith Withell. Could that see an improvement for Lindgren? Withell, no improvement. Lindgren, good improvement. Matches nearly Rebecca's time, so we're having a bit of an Aston showdown at the front. Keith Withell staying off to the side there, and Christian Lindgren up the inside as well. So maybe Keith Withell can benefit from the slipstream on those side by side through turns 2 and 3 over the top of the hill. And now we're going to see the Jaguar, of course, with the toe advantage. So it's a good test almost, Phil, isn't it? In the practice and quali, you've really got to almost practice racing with your opponents to get a feel for how the car can behave in these scenarios.
Yeah, I'm hoping that looked a bit more choreographed than it did from that camera. I think it was like Kota, John, where I think me and you got caught up by a few bits of racing where the camera made it look closer than it actually did. But you have to wince at it though when you see it for the first time. You see Tom Shipston, sorry, I said John just literally two seconds ago, and it's fried my brain. Coming just through the last 2 corners now, he's still got a healthy amount of time left. He's got about 10 up now. He's just come through the last 2 corners. I just say, just got to watch out for your braking point here. It's a bit blind, this braking point. There's nothing obvious to see. As we just come through, just trying to get as close as you dare to that barrier. Lost another about half of his advantage there, and he's just slowly eking away at his times there. Shipston's just parks up, got some fresh boots on, and he'll be back out again. We've still got another 5 minutes to go. Lap time is about a 1:40 something, 1:46. So we've got plenty of time. He's got time to go out there. Maybe get like 3 laps in if he's quick enough, but we'll see. Is Christian Lindgren now? He's as you said, the previous lap he had a bit of a moment where he was a bit too close to the barrier there, but I don't think he's going to quite improve on this time. No, not quite. He was about 10th down before the end of the last corner, so there's not really much to gain there. I've just noticed, I'm just going down the list if I can. Jesse Lee is also doing the same thing as me, just going down the list fast as he can. Besides Bayron at the minute is on a hot lap at the minute. He's about 3 tenths up on his pole time. So you see Les Stevenson, before we move on though, see Les Stevenson, he's on for an improvement, a pretty good improvement of 2 tenths up, and Bayron just behind there. He's just gone up, where is he, P9. So the two aren't quite that far away. They're about 10 separated from each other there, John. It's not a pretty close qualifying session, I must say.
Yeah, it looks relatively close, just outside the top 7. Of course, all within a margin. Manzo and Stevenson with the exact same time on the board as well. The 222 and the 46 looking very competitive. Ollie Mulder up inside, just outside, should we say, sorry, the top 5, just behind Andy Boardman with his last lap, the number 28 there. Fantastic running from him so far, and in the Wednesday's championship as well. Mulder looking very strong in the silver class there. Hubert Hauser over the line, a small improvement for him, remains down in P17, and Mike Redford, again, a good improvement there, just outside the top 10 with P13. So looks like top 10, top 9 or so and above, Phil, as you said, looking relatively close, all the way from 9th to 16th, covered by about 0.3 of a second. So gonna have some close fights in the mid-pack for sure. Towards the front, Spoda Skrillex still with that 146.122. Raphael Kuhl, closest man to challenge him, just behind. Vojta Rybecki wants a piece of it, as well as Christian Lindgren. Both Astons looking very strong there. Christian Lindgren to the line now. The number 48 Sim Brothers entry. Will we see an improvement from him? To the line he goes. No improvement this time for Christian Lindgren. And now is the time to be thinking about coming back to the pits, grabbing another set of Pirellis, taking some fuel out, Phil, and going for that one last kind of stab at it. And as we see there, Christian Lindgren is on the jacks in pit lane, so ready to go once again. Adam Romaniuk, good improvement there into P5, but still not close to Christian Lindgren. That's still a big margin to close up. Les Stevenson back across the line once again. Good improvement, not enough to push him forward towards Mulder, but draws him away from Manso, as I think Les has found the fastest way to jump back to the pit lane, nearly rolling the car in the process, and back to the lane he shall go. But rather than standing on the brakes, Phil, using the barrier as a stopping device.
Yeah, it's a bit faster, wouldn't you say, John? Bruno? Probably something to note for. The next time is I think they just have just Les there, just taking a bit of an advantage of the unique suspension system model that we have in ACC. But we can see the diffuser there. I think was it you or Jesse was talking about? I think it was you actually, John, at Coates, who were talking about the lack of diffuser on the back of the Aston from last time. It was the Jags again. We saw the Jags on there. See Martin Foster just come around last corner now. He's P15 at the minute, so we'll see. And P8, that's a pretty massive improvement there, John, for the 44. Very well done from Martin Foster. I was about to just have a quick check on the track. It's still a green track. It's still a green track, so no track evolution to take advantage of just yet. But it's one of those times where right now, if the track's going to improve too fast, it'll be now basically. So it's always a good idea to try and get out. You probably want to start your last lap with like a minute, and well, not a minute, even like 5-10 seconds to go. You want to be the last car on track, basically. Take full advantage of that of the rubbered in track. But does not those tracks really evolving very fast? I'm not really sure if it's something to do with the weather. We've had like changeable weather. I'm not sure that's like we've had some rain beforehand or something like that, and that's what's stopping the track from being rubbered in as quickly as usual. Just noticed we had a few changes at the top of it. I'm not sure. I suppose it's always been at top, because I swear I've only just seen that 200, John, just pop up at the top of the timing tower.
Yeah, Skrillex have been there since the early days of qualifying. I think about 5 minutes in or so, Skrillex set the fastest lap. But Raphael Kuhl towards the top now, 146.072, fastest Jaguar on the circuit at the moment. Crossed the line with enough time for another lap as well. And Tim Ireland ahead. I'm wondering if they're going to maybe play tactically with a little bit of slipstreaming, but who knows on that one. Hubert Hauser to the line. It's no improvement from him. It's a little bit slower, but again, still enough time for another lap. Just under 30 seconds to go. We're still going to see some very good times coming down. A couple of cars on pit lane. They will take no further part, including Oliver Mulder, Martin Foster, Matthias Byron, and Richard Whittle, to name a few. And I'm sure we're going to see many more people coming back to the pit lane when they realise their delta is down and not enough to be able to secure a faster lap. Meanwhile, Kevin Boss for the Wheelie Slow Racing team to the line. He's made it just in time with another lap to go. 147.152. Season improvement for Kevin Boss to just behind Mike Redford. He's still got another lap in the tank there. Keith Whittle will be the first car to cross the line for the checkered flag out, so no more valid laps can be set. Keith Whittle to the line. It's an improvement, but not enough for position. Just behind Tom Shipston comes in, and Romaniuk finalizes himself in second. That's a very good improvement there, 146.117. Although Skrillex still circulating around on track. Andy Boardman to the line. No improvement from himself there. We will see Marco Fukusha coming through again. No improvement from the Italian driver. He will start in P18. And just flicking back down the pit lane, Yao Manzo still on a valid lap. Christian Lindgren ahead indicated by the blue icon, of course, not on a valid lap, so him crossing the line will affect no more positions. Yao Manzo next across the line. Spoda Skrillex is just behind him. Yao Manzo comes across a 146.717, not fast enough for an improvement. And Spoda Skrillex, if Jesse Lee can find him, he's somewhere. He's already crossed the line, not good enough to take pole. Les Stevenson with a 147.412. Coming back through, we've got Hubert Hauser. That's a good improvement there into P17. Mike Redford improves on his last lap, although not enough to jump Tom Shipston. And the last car across the line, I think Neil Pimlott. No, we've still got the number 31 of Kevin Boss. Kevin Boss is still out there, of course, just crossing the line with about 2 seconds to go. So this is the favoured position you were talking about, Phil. Of course, the latest time in the session. Can we, of course, see an improvement from Kevin Boss? The track should have rubbed in a little bit more. Looks like a good exit out of the last corner. Indeed, to the line he goes. Kevin Boss up into P10. That's a fantastic improvement there from our very own Kevin Boss, just ahead of Les Stevenson and just behind Martin Foster. So your final results for qualifying on the screen at the moment. And just as we thought, Phil, Aston fastest in sector 1 and 3, and of course the Jaguar the fastest through that middle sector.
The Jaguar's fastest, the Aston's fastest in sector 2, oh, sector 3, sorry. I'm trying to figure out why that is, because there's like a few heavy braking points in sector 3, isn't there? I'm just trying to open, like, thinking out loud, sorry, John, just going, wait, why is it faster for that? I can understand sector 1, as we said at the top of the broadcast. I'm trying to figure out why, unless it's just driver difference maybe through there, but yeah. So a few notes there, as we said, Kevin Boss, very impressive, up to P10 there, and as well, Martin Foster as well in the Aston and P9 as well. We saw a few people jump up the grid, but to your top 10, Raphael Huel, Spoda Skrillex, Adam Romaniuk, Victor Rybecki, Christian Lindgren, Jao Manso, Andy Boardman, Ollie Mulder, Martin Foster, and Kevin Boss. Do we have enough time to do the rest, John? Or do you want to... Jesse Lee scrolling down the fence. Thank you, Jesse. So he's laughing at me in the ear now. P11 downwards, Alan Stevenson, Tom Shipston, Neil Pimlott, Mike Redford, Matthias Bayron, Richard Wivell, Hubert Hauser. I do apologise. Prosciutto, yes, I do apologise. I don't have your first name. Sorry. Keith Wivell and Tim Ireland carries the pack down in P20.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, some very competitive times there on the board. 20 cars, of course, in the race tonight should make for some good racing. And, of course, that sector just outside the top 9 looking very close as well. Standings queued up, ready for you guys. Of course, we have divided the championship up into Team V12 and Team Jaag. So we'll have a run through the Jaguars first. It's Raphael Huel, your best Jaguar, at the top with 117 points. Just behind him, Andy Boardman with 110. Les Stevenson on 92 and Grim Lilith on 86, with Richard Withell chasing behind on 72. Kevin Boss on 66, followed closely by Yao Manzo on 63. Hubert Hauser on 54, with Marco Fucuscio on 51. And our very own event admin, Tim Ireland, who's cooked up this whole madness, on 44. And I'm pretty sure we do have a page 2. Of course, Keith Withell on 42. Matthew Malcolm on 18, who can't be with us tonight due to work commitments. Aaron Jackson and Nicholas Nordquist have signed out and will take no further part in the entry list. Now moving on to Team V12, of course, Spoda Skrillex at the top, 118 points to his name, followed by Christian Lindgren on 104. Jordan Daly on 98, with Wojciech Rybecki on 89. Adam Romaniuk on 80, with Ollie Mulder on 62. Matthias Byron just behind on 57, and 2 points down on him, Mike Redford. Neil Pimlott on 52 and Tom Shipston on 46 rounds out your top 10 of the V12s. Sherlin George, of course, with 29 points, and Martin Foster on 26. Ted Edwards has unfortunately signed out and will take no further part in the V12 series. And of course, we do have the Team V12 versus Team Jaag fight going on at the moment, and there's no official way for us to display this to you guys at home, but Team V12 is ahead at the moment on 596 points to Team Jaag's 472 points. So it's not a massive margin when you, of course, gather up the numbers in the field of all cars that could potentially score points. So It's a lot to play for today, Phil, and we thought Zolder would certainly go the way of the Jaguars, but again, it was still the V12s that prevailed come the end of the hour, and of course, an hour on the clock as well tonight. Can those Jags be the dark horses to disrupt the Aston Martins?
Yeah, I think what we're going to find. I was trying to work out if we had. I swear we had more Jags in practice, and we did. But I think the last couple of cars that joined just late to make up the 20 cars. So we got an even split tonight of 10 Jags and 10 Astons. If my maths isn't going to fail me.
It is correct. I've just counted.
That's not bad. At least my maths and counting isn't that bad tonight. It's a bank holiday in the UK after all, and maybe I was praying my, and also as we said, there's a federal holiday in the United States as well. Jesse Lee's coughing very loudly in my ear to just remind me of that note. But yeah. But yeah, I was hoping my arithmetic wasn't going to take a holiday today, which you haven't. But yeah, we should see an interesting race today. I'm hoping to see some more Jags show up. Maybe we'll see. But the bottom five, though, we'll see what happens with that. And obviously, as we point out, John, we've also got live stewards tonight. So hopefully, we don't see. Well, we're not going to see, hopefully, a bigger headache than last week at the start. I'm hoping all the drivers have learned their lesson from last week, breaking into turn one, maybe. But yeah, hopefully a cleaner start for the sake of the stewards tonight, Tom.
Yeah, absolutely so. Fingers crossed, of course, for the live stewards sitting opposite us. They are getting ready, of course, when the green flag drops to observe all the driving. Of course, they'll look into things such as, throttle input, brake input, steering inputs, in fact, and of course go over the incident multiple times, whereas we'll be lucky to see it once live, Phil, and then, of course, once again in a race replay, and we only call what we see. Of course, we'll keep you updated from all of the live steward decisions, so hopefully nobody is in the dark about who received what for why. RCI calendar this week, of course, Wednesday this week we'll continue the Sprint Championship Season 1, heading to Monza for Round 3. Jordan Daly leading Joe Dorber and Marco Badowski in Pro, with Ollie Mulder now leading Nicole Fox from Bruno Teixeira in Silver. Imola was a very mixed round for myself last week. Race 1 was great, and Race 2 not so great. Phil, how did your Wednesday go last week?
Well, I had a wheel issue to start Race 2, and I had no force feedback. Well, I had force feedback which was lighter than what I'm used to, and my wheel is set to like 900. What do you call it, like rotation angle?
Yeah.
And ACC decided to make it like 1090, which doesn't sound a lot, but when if you can't go full lock, the game, the wheel just locks after 900. So when you're in full lock, you're not actually in full lock in the game, which you don't really need that much in Imola, I don't think, apart from just Tosa. But yeah, not the best Imola. But then again, I didn't have the best Kyle Army either. So it's been a season to forget so far in my little slowpoke McLaren.
Yeah, I can kind of agree with that in the Porsche so far as well. Of course, Friday this week as well, we'll see a brand new championship begin. GT2 Diventa Italiano taking you on a whistle-stop tour of the Italian tracks within ACC and GT2 cars. Kicking off at Monza, heading to Imola, and then on to Misano. 1 hour, 20-minute races with 1 litre of fuel in a mandatory pit stop, leaving strategy very open. 9 sign-ups so far, still plenty of space, so do get your name down for that one. And fingers crossed we can bring you some GT2 action through the RCI platform as well. Of course, head on over to the website, racerci.com, where you can sign up and view any events at any time, day or night. Of course, if you're at a loose end and feel like you want some late sim racing action on a weekday, then we are the place to be. Of course, cars now beginning to slightly grid up, of course, 2x2 for the rolling start that we have here. Everybody scrambling to try and get to the position. It's always a panicky phase when you realise how far out you are, but of course the crawl of Raphael Huell at the front is what we need to match the pace to. Of course, Spoda Skrillex to the right, Adam Romaniuk just behind, and Foyster Ray Becky alongside him as well. So we've got a big grid of Aston Martins at the front, ready to swallow up Raphael Huel, of course, Christian Lindgren, not forgetting before we see Yao Manzo and Andy Bourbon, the pair of Jaguars back on the third row of the grid on that one. Coming around the last corner now, weather looking cloudy at the moment, 21 degrees in the air, 24 degrees down on the track. Track status deemed as fast, and drivers are probably going to be praying that that does reach optimum within the hour as we roll towards the gantry, getting ready, of course, for the green flag to go. And it drops. A great start from Raphael Huel. He's going to be on the inside already. Adam Romagna coming alongside Spoda Skrillex around the outside. It's the long way around. Of course, you want the low side to suck the car through on the camber. Andy Bourbon manages to jump. Yao Manzo, there's a crash. It's Lindgren and it's Rybecki. Aston on Aston, setting themselves off from the field already, and that's Tim Ireland pulling alongside Christian Lindgren. Lindgren all the way to the back of the field, and I think Rybecki not too far ahead of him, and Tim Ireland had an incident on the curb, and round he goes as well and into the wall. Tim Ireland going to get underway very shortly in the Silk Cut Jaguar. Fingers crossed, finds a starter, gets it in gear, and off he goes. Meanwhile, at the front, it's Raphael Huel fending off Adam Romagna, Spoda Skrillex with him as well. The top three have managed to break away. Andy Bourbon there in the background, bringing with him, though, an angry field of cars just behind, riding on board, of course, Spoda Skrillex through the bank turns that we go through the middle sector. This is where we should see Raphael Huel hopefully disappear into the distance as they come up to obviously turn 7 of toe. It's crucial to get a good run out of here because it's a long run down towards turn 8, of course, of Heel across the top of the boot, and Raphael Huel already moving off to the right hand side, trying to break the toe of Adam Romagna before pulling back across for the braking zone. And the V12 certainly closing up on the brakes very confidently, but of course Raphael Huel better drive off the corner into turn 9, of course, bringing you out on the NASCAR loop, but it looks like Raphael Huel's gone a little bit wide. That's allowed Romagna to close up that little bit more with Skrillex just behind him. But Phil, touch wood, looks like a relatively clean start so far. I don't want to curse it too much before we get to the last corner, but everybody in single file, a very colourful field indeed, and lap 1 is done and dusted.
Yeah, so I think we only saw like a couple of incidents there, I think just between Rybecki and Lindgren at the start. We didn't quite see that. Hopefully we're going to see like a little thing at the start. As we see Mulder here's overtaking the 44 of Martin Foster. I think he's just got a bit wide there. I think just had a bit of a little contact with that. I don't think there's that much in there, but we'll see. I think going back to your point about like shooting and stuff, well, one of the things that I keep bringing up as well, and naturally we can't sit there and overanalyze everything with a replay, but obviously we only have the TV cameras, maybe some on boards as well, but as we see Martin Foster, not sure this is going to work, but it's going through there. It does take through the bus stop, it does take a compliant car. I mean, the amount of times I've seen cars go too wide into the bus stop and it either ends with somebody going wide. As we keep Wibble here, we're just going to see, we'll just hit the concrete barriers that won't move. As we'll see, there we go, just bit of contact there. I think that was Lindgren on Wibble, but we'll see what happens there. But tends to be when you go for the bus stop, I think it requires somebody to be compliant, I guess, John, is the right word to use it. I think, do you understand what I mean? Like, I don't think it takes, if you have like, you can't really go too wide through that section of corners, or at least 9 times out of 10 it's going to end up with somebody either in the grass or like Ollie Mulder, or it's going to end up in the barrier like Keith Whittle, as we see a bit of argy-bargy here, John, for what's this now, P9. This is Kevin Boss just overtaking them. Oh, he's up into where's Kevin Boss now? He's up into P7 now, so certainly a bit of argy-bargy now, John.
Yeah, certainly so. I mean, Tom Shipston definitely getting swallowed up in the midfield, of course. Ollie Mulder, Kevin Boss just behind. Kevin Boss licking the wall on the outside of the last turn, though. That's going to be some damage, certainly for the really slow Jaguar. Les Stevenson is going to see that and hopefully close up on him. Mike Redford, meanwhile, behind Shipston. Of course, with him, he's got Richard Whittle pressuring down on him with Neil Pimlott in the bright pink Aston Martin. At the back of the train, Matthias Byron just outside. Of course, if these guys start squabbling, that's going to bring Byron in the background. I think that's Rybecki and Lindgren side by side through turns 2, 3 and 4 over the top of the hill. Fingers crossed they both make it out. But now the power on the slipstream. Here comes the V12 firing on all cylinders around the outside. Neil Pimlott will try, and the Whittle has the inside, covers it off very nicely, and that's probably a better example there of course, 2 drivers working together, Phil.
Yeah, the what, John? The Whittle?
The Whittle.
The
I didn't know
Whipple,
if it
okay,
was
fair.
Richard or Keith.
Oh, fair enough. It's interesting nickname then. But yeah, I think he goes back to what we talked about before. Think of what we were talking about before as we see the replay now. I think this is lap 1 for the start. Yeah, there we go. So Lindgren mounts the curve. He's understeered into him, and I think, unfortunately for Lindgren, looking at purely that view alone there, John, we're probably going to see a penalty for Lindgren. I'm not really sure what the stewards think of that one. Like, it's probably at least a 5, but we're going to see what's happened here as we see additional I think Tim Island's just ahead of us. I think as we just see. I think this is this the same lap, Jesse? Or is this just happened? Okay, so sorry about that. There's yeah, a bit of door banging there. I don't think there's going to be that much looked into it from that. Again, I can only judge it from the TV cameras. So yeah, if there's a different opinion, then it's a different opinion. As we see more contact here. So going back to what I said before, John, going through the bus stop, or at least overtaking through the bus stop. I think it's one of those corners where you have to get the move 90% done before turning, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think you can dive into the bus stop, or at least try and go side by side through the bus stop and expect it to come out with, intact, basically.
Yeah, you really have to use the slipstream like we see here. Richard Whittle on Neil Pimlott trying to draw alongside. But if you're not alongside enough, you don't really have a snout along, it's not worth diving, like you say, Phil. Of course, it takes two drivers to really work together. You do have to force the issue. Ollie Mulder over the inside of the bus stop. That's going to relinquish Kevin Boss, Les Stevenson and Tom Shipston through and bring Mike Redford into the picture as Redford looks to the inside. He's not alongside enough, tucks back in for turn 6. Let's have a look what happened here. Kevin Boss to the outside. Les Stevenson looked to the inside. He thought about it. Another bit of argy-bargy. Kevin Boss, of course, over the curb. Maybe not expecting the bounce. Ollie Mulder nearly airtime coming off the inside there and managing to slot in nicely between Shipston and Redford. But no prisoners are being taken tonight, Phil. Everybody is out to get every single inch of track they can get from one another.
Yeah, no, I was going to mention, I'm not really sure that bounce was unexpected. I'd say, I'd argue, and this is me being a very cynical steward, not a nice, happy, good-looking commentator. We see just a bit more nibbles there. I'm not sure that was Kevin Boss just having a bit of a moment just out the exit, or that was Les just giving him a bit of a tap. I'm pretty sure it'll be accident, knowing Les. He's a fairly clean racer himself. But yeah, I would argue that you've had practice. You've had qualifying. You should know pretty well what happens to your car when you go over that curb the way they do. So yeah, I'm not really going to buy I wasn't expecting the car to do that. If that is the argument that is going to be made. As you see Rybecki just coming to pits now. That bonnet, that bonnet is up. I thought that was a little black as part of delivery then, but Rybecki's bonnet popped up. That's not how it's meant. There's sadly no bonnet catch button on these cars that work in ACC, as we see just more arguments here. As Les Stevenson just makes his way past. I mean, that did require a little bit of compliance there from Kevin Boss, but I think that's one of the things you have to do really through the bus stop, John, is if you're on the inside, you kind of have a bit more ability to dictate the corner so long as you turn in. You have to turn in so hard onto the entry curve on the right as you go on the inside, so you're barely touching that barrier on the inside line. You see a bit more action here as Ollie Mulder's now just arguing the Tom Shipson ahead, and that's Mike Redford behind him, and I think that's Neil Pimlott in the 45, John. It's just come up to join in the fun.
Yeah, Pimlott, of course, dispatching of Richard Whittle earlier on, puts himself behind Mike Redford. Redford and Mulder having a little bit of argy-bargy coming out of turn 6. Neither of them wanting to relinquish the position, really. And Tom Shipston is, of course, out ahead of the queue with Kevin Boss. Les Stevenson just ahead of him as well. Martin Foster so far with a great run in the number 44 RPMS car. But it is Raphael Huell, of course, out front, 1.5 seconds to the good of Spoda Skrillex. Anna Romagna just behind him, half a second within. Andy Boardman, 2.4 seconds back. And then Yao Manzo just over a second back from him. And Les Stevenson now looking to the inside of Martin Foster. He shows the nose. It's enough to distract Foster in the mirrors, but both drivers getting the corner done. Foster runs a little bit wide, might have to back out or take the track limit warning on the chin as they now begin the drag through turns 2, 3 and 4 up towards the back straight. Of course, Les Stevenson is going to have the slipstream off the back of the Aston Martin. The Aston's going to be firing on all cylinders. We know that car's very strong in a straight line, as we see in the background. Tom Shipston sizing up a move on Kevin Boss. Kevin Boss goes defensive over the inside curb. Shipston tucks in behind. Of course, Boss with a slightly less than ideal run. That will back up Mulder and Redford and Pimlott into one another behind, and that's going to be the Aston Martin train that we're probably going to be seeing all race long, as Mulder looks to the inside of Shipston. He forces the move. Shipston sees it coming, runs himself out wide in turn 6, and that's allowed Mike Redford this time to come on through, and a flash of the lights there from Shipston. I don't think he was happy with how that move was orchestrated, but nonetheless, Shipston down 2, Mulder up, Redford up, and now the Aston Martin train continues once again. And meanwhile, Les Stevenson at the head of the train has found his way through Martin Foster. Les Stevenson on a fantastic drive today. He's driving like he's forgotten his cool bag.
Cool bag. That caught me off guard, that one, John. But yeah, it's pretty good overtake from Les Stevenson. He finished like P2 last week, I think, John. At least on the podium, at least. I can't remember where. I do apologise if you're watching this back, but yeah, pretty solid show from Les Stevenson. I mean, he's going to try and run away from this train of Astons now. And going back to your point with Kevin Boss, when he's backing up these Astons behind him, you can kind of use that as a strategy in a way. Like, if you can try and back up some of these cars behind you to try and squabble amongst themselves, you could inadvertently create an incident like behind you in a way, like or at least like have, you know, the cars squabbling, and you lose time squabbling with each other rather than just working with each other trying to get ahead of the packers. Matthias Bayron here just behind Richard Whipple in the Jag. They're just giving each other a bit of a nudge. I think that was a little bit of a love tap there, as we see the first penalties come in now. That's Christian Lindgren. He's had a 10-second penalty. I'm going to assume that's for the lap 1 turn 1 incident. That's actually a good point. Maybe we should check. Just check what that is actually, John. That is a heavy avoidable damage. Okay, so that was for 127 and the 48 through turn 1. So stewards are in agreement from lap 1. We're going to watch it again now. So 48. I think what they've seen there, John, is they've just seen the 48 unforced understeer into Rybecki's car, and that's what's caused the damage basically. But 10-second penalty, that's one of the new penalties we have since the start of the year. Obviously, we've introduced it with a 20-second as well for takeouts in lieu of a DT, but we haven't seen any, thankfully, we've seen any DTs today, as we see Ollie Mulder still trying to get past Kevin Boss, and I think these two here squabbling is just going to help Martin Foster so much, John. He's just there, he's just coming from his area, he's just there. And you just can't get close to him because he's got this Jaguar in the way.
Yeah, I think once Mulder gets released from Kevin Boss, he's going to surge up to the back of Martin Foster, and of course Les Stevenson just ahead, galloping away, just over a second gap between the 46 and the 44 as they come towards the line. Raphael Huell still keeping Skrillex honest at the front, 1.5 seconds on that, and a Romagnoc dropping back ever so slightly, 1.7 seconds. So these three ultimately in no man's land, and we saw something very similar last time out at Zolder until Raphael Huell's tyre went bang, and of course he went into the gravel trap at turn 3. Meanwhile, Jan Manzo making up a position on Andy Boardman through the bus stop up the inside. The RPMS Simsport car goes tucking in to the slipstream very nicely, and like you say, Phil, it takes two drivers to work together here. You see Boardman brake, Manzo brakes second, fired himself over the curb, and the move was kind of signed, sealed and delivered. Neither driver really missing out all too much on the pass, and a flash of the hazards there from Manzo, possibly thanking Boardman for working together with him. Of course, it is a Team V12 versus Team Jag, so manufacturers should be working together in the effort to beat one another. As we see a few more stewards penalties come through, this time it's Christian Lindgren once again at lap 2 turn 5 involving the 157 and the 48. It's a 20 seconds for the 48 for a takeout position not returned, and that was with one of the Whittles. That was Keith Whittle through. Yeah, I was going to say the bottom right hand side of the screen denotes, of course, Keith Whittle lap 2, and that's what happened to him. Of course, off to driver's right he went, and then we have another incident lap 3 in the bus stop turn turn 5, I think it is, involving the 48 and the 79. It's a 5 seconds for the 79, once again for avoidable contact. That's Hubert Hauser on Christian Lindgren, of course, up the inside. Hauser tried to overly defend, knocked side by side. Lindgren managed to get it back underway, just about. Minor time loss from both drivers, of course. Damage to the Pirellis will be had, and bodywork as well. So 2 drivers with penalties to their name, Christian Lindgren and Hubert Hauser. Those are to be served, of course, during the pit stop, which we are yet to see. Of course, pit window has not opened yet, so Rybecki, of course, being the early pitter, didn't count towards his mandatory stop, as Mike Redford sniffing at the back of Kevin Boss. Be very careful on this one. It's going to end in tears if neither driver wants to relinquish this position. Redford to the outside, with him brings Shipston in the slipstream. Both drivers equally braking. Kevin Boss prevails through the bus stop as the pit window opens. Of course, we'll start seeing a few drivers maybe pull themselves out of these trains, Phil, because of course it is getting a little bit dicey and a little bit risky. And as we said earlier on, of course, they're only holding themselves up now, as we see Mulder on Foster. That was a very forceful defence. Ollie Mulder trying the old up and under now after being shoved off at turn 6. Foster on the defensive. It's a very risky move going around the outside. There's no grip. The car is cambered on the inside, and there's loads of marbles on the high side, and Foster prevails on that one. But as I was saying, Phil, you really want to get yourselves out of some of these battles, because they are getting very dicey 15 minutes in.
Yeah, I think with the pit window open, we're probably looking at, as you say, anybody who's stuck behind Kevin Boss. I'd say if I was Mike Redford, Tom Shipson, Christian Lindgren, maybe get that penalty out of the way. But Pimlott as well, sorry, in that one. But as we see Jesse Lee, this is Wibble and Matthias Byron there. I think there it is. As Wibbles there just hits the back of, I'm not sure which car that is. Andy Boardman, I'm not really sure. But I think Andy Boardman. And is that a RPMS car just in the background there? We've just seen as Mike Redford probably listened to the advice there and hitting or at least doing what the opposite of what Kevin Boss is doing. There's a lot of Astons coming into the pit lane. That's Redford, Pimlott, Lindgren and Byron all in pit lane there. So we'll see just who's more confident nailing the box. There's Kevin Boss there. He's still right up with Ollie Mulder. I'm not really sure what's happened with Ollie Mulder. I think I think something's happened to him now, because he wasn't this like close with Kevin Boss behind him before. I think there's been an incident with an RPMS car or something. Because I've noticed as well that Martin Foster's suddenly disappeared down to P12. Which would suggest to me that there has been an incident. That's my steward senses is tingling, and we're about to see if they're right, John Dalton, to come through the last turn. And I'm gonna say, without putting any pressure on anybody, but I think Martin Foster's probably turned in with Ollie Mulder on his inside there. But we're gonna see. Obviously, that's may change, John. Stewards have, as you said at the top of the broadcast, all the angles they need, and we'll find out. Depends how busy they are, maybe like 10-20 minutes. We'll see what decision comes of that one.
Yeah, so looking through the window, of course, into the box next door, they are frantically reviewing incidents as we speak, so that's probably on their list to certainly go over there, and I'm sure we'll bring you an update in 10 to 15 minutes time with an answer to that one. Andy Boardman hasn't lost the back of Yao Manzo. Of course, we saw the overtake just a few laps ago. Manzo keeping him honest, working together probably to try and close the gap up to, of course, the Aston Martin ahead of Anna Romagnon. He slipped back from Spoda Skrillex about a second or so again in the last few laps. Skrillex still keeping Raphael Huell honest, though, just within the 2-second window. So Huell still out front, relatively unfazed, but Martin Foster, of course, on the back foot now. He's going to have to do a little bit of fighting to get back through the field, and it's such a shame because the 44 RPMS Simsport car showed such great pace in the qualifying and the early stages of the race. Meanwhile, Marco Fucuccio coming down pit lane. Tom Shipston back into the fight with Kevin Boss, the number 60 on the 31. Ollie Mulder has found his way through Kevin Boss somewhere in the lap, as we see the brief showing of a yellow flag for the 141. Tim Ireland looks like he's off at turn 9 on the exit. Ooh. And that looks very, very awkward indeed. Trying to do the old 5-point turn. The bonnet's up on that car. That indicates some kind of front end damage. So I'm going to say Tim's come out of turn 9, punched the throttle and oversteered into the wall. Let's have a look here. Catches the curb, off to driver's left he goes, into the Armco. No runoff. Matthias Byron having to take avoiding action. And of course Tim waiting for the coast to be clear before he attempts to whip the Jaguar back around, and not succeeding all too well, having to do the old three-point turn. Austin Powers in between the two Armcos, gets it back underway relatively safely. No harm, no foul to other drivers, but lots of front-end damage to that Jaguar. So Tim Ireland down the pit lane now for repairs and his mandatory stop. Tom Shipston closer to Kevin Boss than what we saw earlier on in the lap. So the RPMS Simsport car certainly looking very fast and racy indeed as we ride on board with the Wheelie Slow Racing Team number 31. You see the legs the Aston has out of turn 9, far superior. Phil, that's probably your answer to why the Astons are that bit quicker coming through the last sector. Tom Shipson says, I've had enough of this. And coming into the pit lane, Kevin Boss licking the ball once again down the left-hand side of that Jaguar. So that's going to be more damage stacking on top. So RPMS car down the lane. That breaks up that fight. And everybody looking relatively safe in their own space. But Raphael Huel, Spoda Skrillex still in the mirrors. Not to be forgotten about, of course. Looked so commanding last time out at Zolder, but just wasn't the race for the number 21. But Skrillex definitely in the mirrors, Phil. Definitely going to make Huel think twice about how he's driving that car. Of course, he wants to push the limits somewhat, but he doesn't want to overdo it because, of course, Skrillex is within striking distance. And, of course, Adam Romagnon is only about 5 seconds back as well. So a big enough mistake could see Huel tumble down 2 places at least.
Yeah, but the opposite to that one would be like I think Raphael Huel again going to come back to commentators curse but he looks fairly comfortable at the minute. I'd say like he's 1.8 seconds. It was 1.6 a few laps ago, or maybe even a sector ago. I think Huel is fairly cozy where he is. He's pulled out of the slipstream at the minute. That's probably one of the biggest problems for these Jags today. Has been the lack. You know, not only do they have the straight line speed disadvantage, but there's also like the sheer amount of tow you can get. We see Matthias Bayerl, he's trying to force his way past. I'm trying to. Is that, that's Keith Whipple there? He's trying to get past. A very brave move there through the bus stop. I'd say that's again that comes back to just having a compliant driver. So fair play to Keith Whipple there. Probably recognise that there'd be an incident without input on his end. So but and that's probably one thing I have to try and remember as well. I guess John is like. Some of these overtakes only happen because the other drivers yielded and used their head basically rather than their heart basically, or whatever you want to call it. So fair play to those drivers who see somebody charging into the bus stop and think better of it basically. As we ride on board now, Spoda Skrillex here. It's typical where he's gaining everything. I say, John. Like we're gaining in the bits where the Aston's stronger, and we're losing time where the Aston's weaker. So we're probably going to see like this gap like even out to about 1.5, 1.6 every lap. I'd say is I think that's a lap car ahead. I think that's a Patuto ahead of us in the 20, as we see the relatives there, on the top left of the screen, that is Marco Patuto in the 20 Jaguar just ahead of us. One thing that I'd note with the Jaguar gets in these sort of sectors is that, particularly when you're lapping a Jaguar, is we're probably going to be waiting till sector. Oh, never mind, we're not waiting till sector 1 at all. As fair play, we've just gone out the way straight away. I don't think Patuto really wanted to deal with that particular battle or not get involved, which is fair enough. That gap's up to 1.8 seconds though across the line now for P1 and 2. Romagnon though, he's not that far away, John. I'd say, as you said before, it takes one mistake to be a couple of places down. Imagine if there was a mistake from Huel and then Skrillex got involved or something like that, and then suddenly Romagnon's in the lead. So Romagnon just has to keep his pace honest, because something may happen. It is Watkins after all. Just takes one dodgy mount of a curb, a blue flag driver not behaving the way that you'd expect them to, or something like that, and suddenly he's back in the running for the win.
Yeah, absolutely so. Traffic giveth, and traffic, of course, taketh away, as Fukushio now finds himself with Romagnon on the back of him and staying over the driver's left there, way out of the way, very respectful from the number 20, wants nothing to do with these race leaders as they go through turn 6. Lap times last time by looking very, very similar for the front runners, all within the 147, sorry, with Rafael Hula 147.125, Skrillex a 0.225, and Romagnoc a 0.185. So very, very small margins we're talking, and it's going to be a race of consistency, of course, for the next 35 minutes or so. As Tom Shipston, of course, clearing his mandatory stop, he finds himself in the sights of Mike Redford, just ahead in the number 95. Of course, a few more drivers down pit lane. Keith Whittle, to name one of them at the moment. Of course, after some contact with Christian Lindgren in the bus stop, finds himself very far out of sequence. Meanwhile, Yao Manzo appears to have pulled on Andy Boardman in the number 69. We've got a row of Jaguars this time by. Of course, Fukushio still at the head of this one, with Yao Manzo coming up behind him. Of course, Fukushio there staying off to driver's right once again, being very respectful and yielding to his Jaguar comrades at the moment, trying to propel themselves towards the front end of the field. Of course, Romagnoc is just ahead, about a second or so on Manzo now. No, sorry, it's a second for Boardman to Manzo on that one, about 4 seconds or so for Manzo. Am I right saying? Yes, I am. Yeah, the gap's really big. I'm really confusing myself tonight.
The gap's really big.
Yeah, I'm really confusing myself tonight on these sector gates going on at the moment. But yeah, Spoda Skrillex 1.5 off the back of Huel. Romagnoc 2.5 seconds off the back of Skrillex. Manzo 3 seconds off the back of Romagnoc, and Andy Boardman 1.2 seconds behind. Tom Shipston looks a little bit closer to the back of Mike Redford this time by as well. And of course, this is the realm of cars that have hitted first out of the gate, shall we say, as Shipston's in the wall as well. That outside wall certainly seeing plenty of action, and Neil Pimlock getting very close in the background of the shot as well. Mike Redford last time by 148.352. As we look towards Tom Shipston, it was a 147.727. So Shipston certainly looking like the much quicker car, but Shipston's last lap was not valid. So I'm wondering if Shipston is stacking up some limit warnings and could find himself with a drive-through penalty very shortly. Looking towards the stewards, nothing really to report since we last checked in with them. They're up to lap 9 and lots of racing incidents. So lap 4 involving the 31, the 28, no further action, minor contact. Lap 5 involving the 95 and the 28, racing incident, minor contact. Lap 8 involving the 957 and the 100, racing incident, neither driver deemed wholly at fault. And lap 9 turn 6 involving the 28 and the 44, racing incident, minor contact. So everybody relatively up to date so far, as Tom Shipston closes up this time to the back of Mike Redford, coming through the middle sector of turn 7, of course, up and over the top of the boot, which is technically the straight between 7 and 8 into the hill. And looks like Shipston is much more confident on the brakes, Phil. I wonder if we're going to see a move into turn 1 this time by.
Yeah, I was going to say, John, like, so the straight between the toe and the heel, why isn't that called the sole straight? Because it is the sole of the boot.
I think you might be looking too much into corner names here, Phil.
I think Jesse's not happy with you there. As we see, this fight's still going on between Mike Redford and Tom Shipston. I think Shipston's probably got the thing on Redford there. So just further up the road now, I see Martin Foster and that's Richard. Is that Richard Woodwall in the? I think it is. Yeah, there's 4 position, I think. With a pretty neat move there from Martin Foster. Still yet to pit, but I do notice when speaking about Stewart just before, John, the incident we saw just a few laps ago with Foster and Mulder. There's a lot of magnifying glasses going on in the steward's room. I've just had a quick look over, John, and see unmistakable look of just checking on overlaps and stuff like that. So it may be that there's very fine margins in that particular incident. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's come back. We're probably going to play stewards ourselves now, John, are we? But yeah, I think it's one of those corners where you have to be probably a bit more braver than Mulder was. I'm not really sure if he was making a move or backing out or both from the way his car acted there, John. But yeah, it'll be an interesting one to see. One of the general rules, obviously, we have is like The longer you look at incident, the more likely it is to be a racing incident. But I think it's probably just a case of just making sure there is something there, or if there is something there that has to be looked at. But we'll see. As we see these two, Lindgren and Rybecki, couldn't be separated from the start. In fact, couldn't be separated so much that they hit each other at the start. But once again, John, the nose to tail. I think Rybecki's still yet to pit. He has pitted already, but he pitted outside the pit window, so he still owes a pit stop. This isn't for position, sadly, for Rybecki, but he's got the speed juice fastest lap so far, John. So definitely some extra points for Team Aston on their way in the form of the fastest lap from Rybecki.
Yeah, of course, bonus points for the fastest lap of the race. And we do have a steward's decision on the Foster and Mulder incident. So lap 9, turn 10, involving the 44, and the 28. Deemed, Phil, you were right, racing incident. Neither driver deemed wholly at fault once again. So I guess it was like you said, it wasn't sure if Mulder was going for the move. Foster wasn't sure if he was going for the move either. Obviously turned in to hit the apex, and suddenly Ollie Mulder was alongside, as we saw a flash of the hazard there from Rybecki to Lindgren for letting him through. Of course, very well knows that Rybecki still owes a pit stop, so in theory, if they work together, a little bit of drafting between the two should see them with some faster times. Of course, Rybecki, the fastest man on the circuit, as you said, Phil, of course, gone for those bonus points after the turn 1 incident. So maybe just going to tow Lindgren along around the Glen to see if he can get that number 48 a little bit closer to, of course, Byron in the number 100. All relatively calm on circuit at the moment. Raphael Huell still out front. Spoda Skrillex 1.2 seconds to the good this time. The gap has come down ever so slightly by about half a second. So are we seeing the fall off now of Huell, and we're seeing Spoda Skrillex, coming in to that magical window. Adam Romagnoc dropped back by about half a second, 3.5 seconds to the good. Yeah, Manzo 4 seconds back now. So Romagnoc pulling on Manzo as Martin Foster comes down the pit lane. Andy Boardman still glued to Manzo though, just within a second. Les Stevenson still looking for that cool bag, no doubt. 15.8 seconds behind Boardman. So again, a big ask from the number 46. Ollie Mulder, of course, 5 seconds behind him. Kevin Boss, Richard Whittle and Hubert Hauser all inside the top 10, still yet to pit, along with Wojciech Rybecki as well for connection loss racing. So we could even see some time gained or lost on pit road, Phil. Of course, lots of different strategies can be played at hand today. We do have a mandatory pit stop, the only requirement being, of course, make the stop in the 30-minute window and a minimum of 1 litre of fuel to be added, leaving, tyres and the rest of the fuel load essentially completely up to the drivers. So who is well rehearsed on pit entry and exit? Of course, getting the car in the box is a crucial thing within ACC, because we know how finicky that can be, shuffling backwards and forwards. And I imagine a lot of drivers are going to elect to spend the least amount of time on pit lane, Phil. So a litre of fuel and off the jacks and go again. But of course, tyres could be a bit of a blinder if the track stays as it is.
Yeah, I'd say what we at, like 26 degrees track temperature. It's not like tire chewing temperatures. I'd say we're certainly getting up with anything. I think getting even north of 30 degrees is tire chewing temperatures. But Watkins Glen not really known for being kind on the tires either. But yeah, it was an interesting one, because I think we had this chat with some of the drivers before the start of the championship actually. And there was some talk that the Jaguars were actually better on tyres than the Astons, but we'll see on that one. It probably varies between driver to driver. Certain drivers have more smoother inputs than other drivers do. Obviously, smoother the inputs, Jenson Button-esque input, should we say, the kind you're on your tyres. As we see both Redford and Shipson go wide there. And yeah, there's another one for you, John. Actually. Track limit warnings around here, because I can't, apart from the second to last corner and turn 1, I'm trying to think where else you get track limit warnings around Watkins Glen.
You can get a really nice one on the exit of turn 5 if you're not careful. Speaking of careful, Tom Shipston through the gravel. Mike Redford backs out of it, draws the car up very nicely, and I'm wondering if that's going to be a position return from the RPMS SimSport driver. It was a very ambitious move, and like you say, drivers need to work together. But yeah, turn 5 here, Phil, you can really use the outside curb and certainly pick yourselves up a track limits warning there. But yeah, turn 1, turn 5, I would say turn 8 maybe as well, coming out of hill. That's got a lot of extra runoff. That's quite a popular one. And of course, turn 10.
Yeah.
So probably about half the corners or so can certainly bite you in that aspect. But towards the front, of course, Raphael Hjort is hemorrhaging time at the moment to Spoda Skrillex in the V12. Not sure what's going on here, whether Hjort's suffering with the tyres or maybe even suffering with another problem that we're not aware of. So the gap is now down to half a second, Phil. That's come down by a whopping 1.5 seconds in about 2 laps or so. Adam Romaniuk, meanwhile, still behind 4 seconds to the good. So it's not Skrillex getting faster. It's certainly Hjul getting slower at some point. And Yao Manzo 5 seconds now nearly to the back of Adam Romaniuk. So Adam's in a bit of a John Dalton no man's land zone there. Nobody really ahead, nobody really behind. Just enjoying the scenery from the Finger Lake region of New York, currently at the Glen. But certainly Hjul fighting something at the moment, and Skrillex certainly does smell something, and he's really trying to hustle the number 200 towards the front of the field.
Yeah, hopefully for him he smells some victory, but obviously for Raphael Hjul there's still some hope left. There's still about 25 minutes to go yet. Yeah, going back to what you said about Romania, there he's just about in our pictures there. He's as Skrillex comes up to the back of Hjul, we're probably going to see them maybe squabble a bit, because we're over halfway through this race. There is every motivation for Raphael Hjul to hold on to this position naturally, because it is a lead after all. But as several Jaguar drivers have demonstrated further down the order, I think it's so long as you nail turn 1, you can defend into the bus stop. I think that's the main place where Skrillex is going to have to overtake him, because these Jags, while they're slower, are a lot better on the brakes. So through some of the other more traditional overtaking points around here, I think he's going to take a mistake from Hjul for Skrillex to get past, or at least doesn't even need to be out braking yourself. It can be something as basic as just going through turn 1 a bit poorly. I think we saw Kevin Boss nearly have that happen to him earlier on in the race when we were watching that squabble between like 5 cars or something. But yeah, so we see them just come through the toe now onto the straight for what's this now? What lap are we on now, John? We're on the 20. We're on lap 21. Okay, so yeah, we're not that quite far into the race. It's 23 minutes. So there's just under 8 minutes of pit window to go. So they've probably got about 3 laps, I'd say, between now and when the pit window closes. So if I was Skrillex, I'd probably look to be pitting like in the next couple of laps, or at least doing the opposite of Hjul, unless it's impossible to do that. So yeah, if I was Hjul, I'd be waiting till the very last minute to be pitting, and if I was Skrillex, I'd try an undercut, really, because I think that's the only way Skrillex is going to get past reliably. I'm not saying that's the only way to get past, just saying reliably there, John, as we see Andy Boardman come in. So yeah, 2 or 3 laps of laps left to pit, John, and let's get into the what do you call it, the knife edge, or that's what you call it, the business end of the race.
Yeah, maybe they need to, juke themselves into the undercut or the overcut, as the gap has come down now. It's under half a second through the bus stop. Of course, Skrillex following in the wake of the Jaguar V8. I was about to say V12 then. Through the bus stop they go. Turn 5, of course, running on board with Skrillex. He's closer than he's ever been this time by. Let's see if we can watch something on Hjul's car to see if we can spot something off. A little bit wide off the curb through turn 6. Of course, coming in to turn 7 now. Let's see who makes the apex, and Hjul's car certainly making the apex along with Skrillex, and the V12 there wrestling itself off the corner. Of course, the slightly dated TC systems, a lot of the drivers electing to run them very low, or certainly nearly in the off position, as turn 8 looks even closer for Skrillex as he closes up on the brakes. But of course, it's very kind of like an illusion, judging by the corner entry. Everything always looks closer on entry towards exit. Of course, you always want to look towards the exit more than the entry for that true picture of what's going on at the moment. Penultimate corner now. Will either driver pit? Just under 6 minutes to go, so you've got at least 2 laps to go on the board, and everybody remaining line of stern, and Huell's in the wall, kissing it on the outside. The number 21 is really pushing to try and escape the claws of Skrillex, but Skrillex looking closer than ever now down into turn 1. He's going to be within slipstream range, and it's now a long drag from turn 1 all the way up to the bus stop, the right-hander of turn 2. Be careful not to put too much steer and lock in. You don't want to scrub that speed. Turn 3 over the top again. Keep it clean. Run it to the arm coast. Skrillex is really pushing. He's trying to extract everything out of that V12. Currently riding on board with Raphael Huell into the bus stop. Not going to be close enough to pull alongside, but certainly looking closer than he has ever done. Both cars over the curb. Huell's car looking slightly more settled than Skrillex's on turn-in. Of course, the dirty air coming off the back of that Jaguar isn't going to make it all too pleasant for the Aston Martin behind, and Huell has managed to pull out a little bit of breathing room for the middle sector. Under 5 minutes to go. Of course, Phil, we were talking about who is going to pit first, and I think if Huell comes down the lane, I think Skrillex is probably going to follow him and try and mirror the strategy. Of course, the last thing you want to do is try and do the undercut and then come out into traffic or into somebody else's fight and hemorrhage more time than you were expecting. Still 7 cars left to pit on the road.
Yeah, I think when you talk about traffic, I think we're not really going to see that much impact on traffic if you pit now or a lap later. Certainly, if you pit a lap later, we're not going to see anything in terms of traffic. Probably just a few back markers or something like that. But there's only like 20 cars on the track, so we're probably going to see like 2 at the most if you pit now. I'd say most everyone else has pitted. The only people who haven't pitted are the people who are just going to be pitting till the end. And there we go. They both go past pit exit. So they are both going to be pitting at the very last possible moment. We've got 4 minutes to go. So I think, John, my very ambitious calculation would say maybe these two have enough time to do 2 laps with like a 20-second spare leeway, should we say? I'm not gonna. Don't hold me to that one. But I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure these two really want to be doing calculations that fine on the at nearly 150 mile an hour. As we see Skrillex now trying to put his nose in there. I think Huell spotted that, and yeah, I think Skrillex there probably just showing his nose, just going like, I'm here. But Huell's seen that many a times, and nothing really to doubt. I think Skrillex was trying to hope that to put Huell off through the entry into that corner, because obviously if you can put off the entry to the entry through the bus stop, then you probably end up like just taking advantage for the exits. We see Shipston and Ollie Mulder. That's for effectively that's P9 at the minute. Yeah, Ollie Mulder's in P9 at the minute, doing a bit of a recovery drive. But as you see Tom Shipson there, John, he's just had when you say a kiss of the wall, I swear these aren't kisses on the wall, John. These are like proper like slams into the wall through here. And I'm just wondering, John, just how much damage you think that sort of stuff does to a car. Like, you know, is it just like a little love tap, like just barely anything, or do they just collect over time like Pokemon or something like that?
Yeah, I'd say it's certainly going to be an accumulation, isn't it? As Spoda Skrillex takes to the low line, he's going to be the first car to pit from the lead duo. Raphael Huell will go one more. Of course, 2 minutes 9 on the clock. It's about a 1:46 lap, and Adam Romaniuk sees this, and he mirrors what Spoda Skrillex is doing behind. So 2 Astons down to the pit lane. Les Stevenson, 26 seconds behind, with Kevin Boss 16 seconds back on him as well. So these lead 2 should be rather comfortable. And here he is, Les Stevenson, in the number 46 Roker Poker Racing Jag, just ahead a little bit of traffic. And how he's taking this last corner, he is definitely coming down the pit road. He's going to have a check-in with the team, see if they found that cool bag yet, and then be on his way towards the end of the race. Just over 16.5 minutes left to go, and of course he will find himself, in theory, with Kevin Boss behind him in the lane as well. And down to the low side Kevin goes. Of course, Andy Boardman maybe a little bit hindered there, and Boardman and Manzo have swapped positions since the pit stops have happened. Of course, you may remember the 69 was behind the 222. That is now the opposite way around, although Manzo certainly looks like the faster car of the two, so I'm sure we're going to see that move back again. Adam Romagna just ahead of these guys coming out on pit road, and Raphael Huell will be the last car in theory to come down the lane. Just ahead of him, the RPMS machine of Martin Foster, the 44, of course, after the drama with Ollie Mulder into the last corner. That's where he's offset himself to. Such a shame. Showed such good potential, but Boda Skrillex, where will he be? Will he be close enough after his pit stop to capitalise on Raphael Huell? Of course, they both came down at a similar time through the last corner. They were almost nose to tail. So Raphael Huell, this time by 35 seconds on the pit window. He's going to have to come now. He can't make another stop. Brakes nicely. On the underline they go. All drivers being told to make it obvious that, of course, you're going to come down the pit lane. Gets on the limiter, drawn up to 49 kilometers an hour, just in time for the board on the left-hand side, which has survived. He'll seek his pit box, try and find his marks, and stop very precisely on them. Boda Skrillex a 44.4 from pit in to pit out. So we're going to see what can Raphael Huell do. We have the live delta on the left-hand side of your screen. The gap is going to be counting down forever and more. Under 20 seconds to go. Skrillex with 2 corners to go. Huell still stationary on the pit road, looking at the triangle on the track map, bottom left-hand side of your screen. Huell is moving from what I can work out. He's slowly inching down the pit lane. He's over the limit line. He's off the limiter, round the tighter line of turn 1. And I think Raphael Huell has done this. This has been a fantastic stop from the number 21. It's a 40.4, 4 seconds quicker than Boda Skrillex's stop, and that is going to give him some breathing room towards the end of the race now, Phil.
Yeah, that's a fantastic stop from Raphael Huell there. As you said, like a full 4 seconds faster than Skrillex. And one thing I do fear though is from Huell's run up to the pit stops that this 4 seconds is probably going to inch his way down, whittle its way down to a bit. But to be honest, this 5 second barrier, this 5 seconds, I suspect Huell would just be using just to whittle down. I'd say just as a nice little barrier, but. Skrillex doesn't really have that much to worry about. I don't think he certainly caught up fairly handily to Raphael Huell towards the end of that, or say stint, I'm not really sure what you want to call it, but just before they pitted. But yeah, still to play for. There's still 15 minutes to go. So what's that, about 7-8 laps to go? So we're not done and dusted yet, John. So we move on. These two still fighting out for P7, Ollie Mulder and Tom Shipson. Everyone's pitted now, so everyone's effectively in their effective position, as we say. And we move on to see João Manso and Andy Boardman. One thing to note, John, I watched how João Manso got past Andy Boardman before. I think that Jag of Manso is running slightly less wing. He just has so much, he has a pace advantage over Boardman through that first sector, and that's that is a way you can go about Watkins. I think certain people, probably cars with more grunt, run lower wings, take advantage of the straight line speed. I'm not really sure there's that many high speed corners around Watkins that you need the downforce for, John. Maybe the carousel and the last 2 corners, but everything else is fairly medium to low speed, I think, unless you're going to correct me on that one.
Yeah, I'd say kind of turn 10 certainly kind of high downforce-ish. Turn 11 I'd agree with you there, and of course everything else is a bit of a medium to slow, as you say, so no real need for high levels of downforce. It's certainly more beneficial to trim the wing out, make the car as slim as it can be, of course, for the long run through turns 1, 2, 3 and 4 out onto the back straight. João Manso hunting down Andy Boardman as we speak, of course, on the screen at the moment. And Romagna just ahead of these guys as well, so he's still within firing distance to losing some points to the Jaguar squad should anything happen to him. And just looking down the pit stops at the moment, a lot of 40s to 44s in on the board. We've got a 1 minute 11 from Christian Lindgren. That's going to be for some damage fixing. Of course, Rybecki with a 1 minute 9. Keith Whittle, Tim Ireland, big long stops for those guys as well. Marco Fucuscio, 1 minute 9 as well to his name. Mike Redford down the lane, 40.8, so a very fast stop from Redford as well on that one, as we see Tim Ireland, speak of the devil, moving out the way across the top of the boot, staying clear of course, 3rd, 4th and 5th. Meanwhile, Raphael Kuhl at the front, of course, 5.3 seconds now to Spoda Skrillex just behind. Adam Romaniuk, 9.3 seconds. So even a bigger kind of breathing space now for Spoda Skrillex. He hasn't really got to worry. Just got to kind of hold line of stern at this point, I would say, Phil. Of course, just over 10 minutes to go. You're not going to gain a lot by pushing, but again, you're going to lose it all should you make a mistake. You're going to see if Romaniuk goes past, he's going to bring with him Manzo and Boardman at least on that one, as we see Kevin Boss and Matthias Byron also in their own little fight. And this is what it's all about, of course, isn't it? It's Team Jaag versus Team V12. And I think a lot of drivers tonight, Phil, have forgotten that there is, of course, the bigger championship going on. It looks like Kevin Boss is possibly indicating right for Matthias Byron, but I'm not sure if he realises his indicator is on as João Manzo closes up to Andy Boardman, gets very close to the back of the diffuser. And like we said earlier, Phil, of course, the not being alongside enough into the bus stop, there's no point making a late lunge. And I think this is the crucial thing, of course. Manufacturers now working together. Meanwhile, Tom Shipston, Ollie Mulder, same manufacturer again. We've seen some lumps being taken out of the Astons today. They're certainly fighting for pride rather than overall kind of team picture, I would say, after today's round.
Yeah, just as we see, just watching my over monitor. There we go. I was watching his fight on my over monitor. Bayron against Boss. I think Boss is going mighty defensive into the bus stop. We're just side by side at the minute. I wouldn't be turning in if I were you, Bayron, and he's slotted back in behind. It is very frustrating. I can appreciate that point. That when you're so much faster in a straight line and you've got somebody in front of you who's forgotten to turn his right indicator off and just driving defensively, holding you up, as Kevin Boss, well, in the nicest possible way, is at the minute for Bayron. But I think he's just got to keep doing what he's doing. There's still 9 minutes of the race to go. He's more than entitled to do what he's doing, and full credit to him as well for doing that. As Bayron takes the same line. I think you mentioned it before, John. It's just that corner there, the toe. It's just like it's just off camber or something like that for the outside. I'm not really sure if it's worth just doing what Bayron's doing, unless he's just putting his foot down early just to try and get any sort of advantage out of the corner he can. We're just coming right up behind this Jaguar diffuser now. Coming to the last two corners. Now, if Bayron wants to get past, we're going to have to see a better exit through turn one. I mean, when I mean a better exit, I mean a unequivocally better exit, to be honest. And which I think we're a bit too far away, because what we're going to see now, John, I think, is Kevin Boss is just going to hold the racing line as we just break a bit too late through turn one. Fair play to Matthias Byron there, John. Just bailed out of it and goes to the outside line. That's one thing we tell drivers: if you need to bail, go to the outside where the track's not going to follow. Because the amount of drivers that would have taken to the inside line to try and bail, or to just try and make an overtake or something like that, is I don't know what to put it, but yeah, if you're going to bail, do what Bayron did. Fair play. Bail to the outside, away from the track, and he'll be back on Kevin Boss's diffuser in a couple of laps' time.
Yeah, of course, a lot of drivers do, try and make the corner, as you said there, Phil. They try and kind of like brake, scrubble the speed off, hit the apex, and then hit the car ahead usually. So very heads-up driving from the number 100 to take avoiding action. And if you do want to see Kevin's reaction to that one, you can have a look at his Twitch, advertised very nicely across his rear bumper, as we saw earlier on. It's twitch.tv/crashneck. I've put a link in both of the chats. Go and show him some love from us up here in the commentary booth. And somebody tell him that his indicator is still on many laps later, because that's going to be very confusing for Matthias Byron coming up on the back of that Jag. I'm sure he thought he was giving way at first, and then, of course, gave up on thinking that Kevin Boss was going to give way. So I'm not sure if there's an indicator for your indicator on the dashboard of this car or not, as Byron goes very wide, brushing the tyre wall there, and comes back on to the track. So that's going to be a right-hand side strike for that car, and Kevin Boss has had plenty of left-hand strikes on the Jaguar through the last turn. And in the background, Richard Whittle also looking to close up on this fight if he can. And again, that's going to be some more points towards the Jaguar camp if that does happen. Meanwhile, João Manzo and Andy Boardman still as close as ever, not one of them moving to the side for the other. And Adam Romaniuk still up the road, 1.5 seconds to the good. So opening up a gap just ever so slightly. Spoda Skrillex has brought the gap down by about half a second. 5 seconds separate himself from Raphael Huel now at the front of the grid, and 9.2 seconds separate Skrillex and Romagno, as we see another penalty coming in for Keith Whittle down towards the back of the grid. Just going to have a look. It's for lap 19 in the bus stop, involving the 157 and the 127. Let's have a race replay here. That's Becky towards the outside, Whittle towards the inside, and they both brush and both hard licks into the wall on the right-hand side. Becky's car certainly been in the wars today, and Whittle joining him as well. Hard licks indeed. Lots of hard licks going on at the moment for some of these incidents, but that's a 20 seconds for the number 157, so that will be added on to the race time at the end. And I think Tim Ireland is maybe a little bit too far out to capitalise on that one, as Tim's had a bit of a rotten round here today as well. Boardman and Manzo still working together to try and get themselves towards the Adam Romagnic just ahead. I don't think that's going to be on the cards today. 5 minutes on the clock, and it looks like Manzo's fed up of waiting. He wants to try and go the long way around Boorman. On the outside, he'll go towards the bus stop. It takes two to tango, Phil, as we said earlier. Neither driver wanting to yield. Boorman over the curb. There's contact. Manzo holds onto it over the curb, rallycross style. Settles the back of the car down. A flash of the lights there. Manzo isn't best pleased with Boorman, but again, I don't think that move was on, Phil. It was the long way around the bus stop. You're going to have to really send yourself quite deep into the corner to get that car drawn up, and of course Boardman not wanting to give way either, but very well held by the RPMS 222. Of course, sometimes the car gets that weird rear end bounce and fishtails you all over the place. Meanwhile, Byron on the back of Kevin Boss. That looked very dicey from our TV cams as they came over the top of the hill. Byron's going to try and do the same that Manzo did around the outside. I don't think the move is going to be on here again. Byron not alongside enough. Boss to the inside. Covers off very nicely. A little bit of a rear end loss there for the number 100. And Richard Whittle is now closing in on these two, Phil.
Yeah, I was going to mention before, like, if I was Matthias Byron, I mean, this is pretty easy for me to say in my, effectively in my commentary booth at the minute. Oh, this is how you drive. Bloody hell, what's up with you? You can't drive properly, but no, the point is just like, I think you need to think with the bus stop, if Kevin Boss is going to be going shallow into it and defensive, then I think what you need to do is just keep him there and just set up for the exit instead. And I think one thing that some of these drivers are doing is they're trying to make the move into the exit of the bus stop rather than what do you call it, like playing out the exit of the bus stop into the entry of the carousel, because obviously there are ways to set up for that corner. So you see getting mighty close to getting Boss. We just had a bit of a moment coming in and out of the heel as we just come into the last two corners now. We're on board with Richard Whittle. He's got a front row seat to this fight now, and if I was him, I'd probably not try and get myself involved unless I was forced to, just because there is a lot here, John, basically. Potentially that could end up in tears, as we see Tom Shipston and Ollie Mulder. That's another fight that's just these two just have been inseparable this race, and that's Les Stevenson just ahead as well. And a very quiet race, but a very impressive race nonetheless. I think that's probably a sign of a good race though, John, isn't it? Like a nice quiet race in the top six.
Yeah, quiet race is not necessarily a bad one, is it? I mean, it allows you to drive the car at your own pace as Byron tries to size up Kevin Boss once again into the bus stop. Wondering if he's been tuned into the broadcast field, whether he's going to try on the exit to carry the momentum through towards the bank right-hander, of course, of turn 5, but nonetheless, no move to be made. A quiet race is normally a good one. I mean, it allows you to drive your own race. It allows you to dictate what you do, and you don't have to, worry too much about others behind you, ahead of you, worry about the undercut, the overcut, what strategy you're going to play, etc. It's a really nice thing to have a quiet race. You just kind of drive away from the field and on you go, as Yao Manzo currently still to the back of Andy Boardman. Again, these two are inseparable, as you said earlier, of course, about Mulder and Shipston. These are another two that we can't seem to separate this time by, and Manzo certainly wants that P4. He's getting very racy towards the back of Andy Boardman. Equally, Matthias Byron around the outside of turn 9 maybe cuts off the front of Whittle, and Manzo is very alongside now into the bus stop, fully alongside that car. Boardman breaks earlier. Manzo around the outside outside, but he looks like he's carried a little bit too much speed. Has to scrub off in the middle of the bus stop, and Manzo up into P4, Boardman down into P5. Of course, the Jaguar camp probably going to be very happy that there was no foul on that move, and both drivers will keep the points for the overall score. But Matthias Byron, meanwhile, towards the outside of Kevin Boss, he's running out of time to get this move done. He's going to have to go the long way around. There's no grip on the outside. The inside, of course, cambered, sucks the car through very nicely, and Richard Withall onto the back of Matthias Byron now. Byron finds himself in the middle of two Jaguars, and that's not going to be where you want to be. Of course, the Jaguars want to capitalise as much as they can at the moment, so Withall is going to have to go for the move on Byron. If he makes a mistake, he's going to have to see the gap and go for it. Now Byron shallows up the entry a little bit, tucks back in behind Boss, but Boss's car is parked perfectly through the bus stop to be able to cover off the move from Byron. Byron opens himself up on the loop. There's an inside line forming, but the inside will become the outside for turn 6. Richard Withall sneaks back in behind Byron. No move to be made this time by, but Withall, I think he wants to get this move done again, but it just can't find the space. Byron is just placing that car perfectly to distract Kevin Boss, but again, nice enough to defend from the charging Withall behind. So it's a tricky one for Byron right now.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those ones where, as you said, you've got to have one eye through your windscreen and one eye in your rearview mirror at the minute for Byron. But yes, he's had a few moments. I think Kevin Boss has had a few moments, particularly through the exit through here for the last lap, where there was a bit of an advantage of just watching it through the other monitor before. Kevin Boss was going immediately like defensive through the start finish line for the last one. I think he just had a bad exit through the last two corners or something. And Bayron's looking very hungry now, as we see. Tell you what, we haven't seen recently. Raphael Huel, John. He's had since the little scare at the before the pit stops, he's had a bit of a copybook. Second half of this race, he's had a copybook. A couple of laps after the pit stop, 4 seconds. He's taken full advantage of that. So full credit there. The Pachuto there just going off the track, just making sure he doesn't have anything to do with Shipston and Mulder there. So we see just more fighting here, and that's Withall. He's trying to get around the inside of Bayron, and I don't know what. Kevin Boss is going straight to the inside line. He's giving Bayron the toe there, and Withall there. Fantastic move into what was that now? P12 as Raphael Huel. A fantastic race there from Raphael Huel. P1. Spoda Skrillex kept him honest. Some fantastic racing between the pair, but ultimately John decided by a pit stop.
Yeah, textbook race from Raphael Huel. He'll come across the line to take the top step of the podium, followed by Spoda Skrillex, Adam Romagnoc, Manzo and Boardman. But this fight isn't over yet. Kevin Boss clawing on to P11. Richard Withall now through on Matthias Byron for P12. It's going to be line of stern Jaguars into the final sector now. Time is running out. The corners are ticking down, and Matthias Byron is going to be so frustrated. He hasn't been able to capitalise on Kevin Boss ahead, but can he capitalise on Richard Withall? Withall going defensive, almost like a rear gunner now for Kevin Boss in the Team Jag versus Team V12 fight as cars begin to stream over the line beneath our feet. But this is the fight we want to be watching at the moment. I think Kevin Boss has done just about enough if he holds off for 2 more corners. Byron charging in the background, darting towards the outside, trying to put Richard Withall off for one last time. For Cusho to the inside, letting everybody have their fight. Richard Withall to the line with Kevin Boss. It's such a small margin, and Matthias Byron just behind as well. Christian Lindgren follows through in the number 48. Martin Foster, Hubert Hauser and Fakusho still running in the background. And what a great race we have had here today. Martin Foster for the RPMS Simsport camp, the number 44. He'll come across the line for P15. Such a shame. Showed great pace in practice and qualifying, in the race just wasn't his luck today. Hubert Hauser, meanwhile, in the number 79, he'll be the last car to come across the line to take the checkered flag. A flash of the lights from Hubert Hauser. Becky takes your fastest lap away for bonus points, but it's Raphael Huel at the top of the field today. The number 21 textbook drive from the green to the checker. No mistakes other than the small wobble in the middle of the race. Much faster pit stop saw him prevail over Spoda Skrillex. Adam Romagnoc comes through to take the bottom bottom step of the podium. And then we have a gaggle of Jaguars with Yao Manzo, Andy Boardman, and Les Stevenson. Ollie Mulder, Tom Shipston, Mike Redford, and Neil Pimlott finish out the top 10 for Aston's. And then we have Kevin Boss and Richard Whittle in 11th and 12th, before we see Byron, Lindgren, and Foster 13th, 14th, and 15th. Hubert Hauser in 16th, Roger Rybecki in 17th, Marco Fucuscio in 18th, Keith Whittle in 19th, and our very own Tim Ireland in P20. Every driver managing to finish today, so kudos for them all down on the grid, and some great racing we have had by all today. And you know, when I saw this announced, Phil, Team Jag versus Team V12, I didn't think it would provide good racing. I thought we would get some, you know, some mediocre racing, let's say. I didn't think we'd have the kind of close fights that we've been having every round. There's been somebody locked bumper to bumper with one another, and it's provided some great entertainment here at RCI TV.
Yeah, I was going to say I think one of the advantages of one of the interesting things with these two cars is that they're slightly different in a way. Like Jaguar's certainly not got the top end that the Aston has, or the Aston has, but the Aston has that straight line speed advantage, just not as good on the brakes as the Jaguar is. So it's been fascinating to watch just two different types of cars. It's a bit like watching GT4s in a way, isn't it, John? Like, you know, they tend to have wildly different strengths and weaknesses, and yeah, it's been quite good. It's been quite good to have these sort of tracks like Watkins where we get to see the two strengths and weaknesses of both cars in action, basically. So yeah, it's been quite a fascinating race to watch.
Yeah, it's provided some brilliant entertainment for us here on Mondays at RCI TV. And we still have another round to go. Next week, we find ourselves at Laguna Seca, where we'll, of course, round off the championship and bring you all the action here on RCI TV. Reminder to head on over to the website, where you can, of course, see all of our events and sign up anytime, day or night. Of course, Wednesday this week continues the Sprint Championship Season 1, heading to Monza for Round 3. Jordan Daly leading Joe Dorber and Marco Badowski in Pro, with Ollie Mulder now leading Nicole Fox from Bruno Teixeira in silver. Of course, Friday's new championship should also begin this week. GT2 Diventa Italiano taking you on a whistle-stop tour of the Italian tracks within ACC and GT2 cars. Kicking off at Monza, heading to Imola, and then on to Misano. 1 hour, 20-minute races with 1 litre of fuel in a mandatory pit stop, leaving strategy very open. Of course, you can check out all of our links down below, including Discord, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And of course, a big thank you to you guys at home for joining us on the journey tonight. We appreciate each and every single one of you, whether you've lurked, you're watching back, or you've been watching us from the very beginning and interacting with us in chat. We do appreciate you very much. And of course, we did tip 4,500 subscribers on YouTube this year, so that's a very big feat for us to accomplish, and hopefully even more to come in the future. Of course, World Tour is back with you in a few weeks' time. It's the big one. It's the 24 hours of the Red Bull Ring. We do hope to bring you at least an hour from the beginning and an hour from the end if we can. Of course, with 22 hours in between unable to be filled. But if you do want to get involved with us here at RCI TV and contribute to our staff roster, of course, head on over to the Discord, where you can find our staff vacancies board, where we can find positions for broadcasters, commentators, and stewards as well. And you can never have enough live stewards, I'm told, on this one. So, yeah, get on over, see what you can do, and of course, full training will be provided. But from us here tonight at Watkins Glen, it's been a fantastic scene. As you can see, some of the highlights rolling through in the background as we close out. We do encourage you to head back and watch the broadcast. It's been some great racing from start to finish. So, from myself, John Dalton, from Phil Roberts, of course, alongside me, from Jesse Lee behind the cameras, and of course, all of our live stewards. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. We hope to see you back on RCI TV very soon. Take care.